Hello, welcome back to the boat shed. Today we're removing the cap rails on this boat as well as completely taking off the teak decks in a way that you maybe haven't quite seen before. Oh, and stick around for a couple of special guests.
Hi, I'm John and this is Antidote. Join the adventure as I leave my 9-to-5 engineering job to transform this tired old liveaboard back into a capable world cruiser. I was stuck in the endless loop of trading my time for money, like a life for sale. Now I'm focusing all of my energy into fixing up this old boat, and now I'm living for sale.
Hold on. Now the teak on Antidote's decks is toast. There's just no discussion about trying to keep it. It is way too far gone, and keep watching and you'll have all the evidence that you need. But before we can start taking these decks off, we need to get all the hardware off first, so let's get going on that.
Prepping the teak decks for removal meant I had to get all the hardware off the deck. I started with these deck fills. There were 8 of them in total. A little bit of heat always seems to help things come apart easier, so I used this heat gun to remove the trim ring and then carefully cut and popped out the deck prisms from below. In an effort to keep the interior of the boat clean while I worked on the deck, I fashioned these wooden boards to go inside the prism holes. Up at the bow of the boat, I'm using this heat gun again to try to gently remove this teak pad that was used to raise up the Nilsson windlass. It came off pretty clean. Here you can see and get an appreciation for just how much the deck has worn out over the years.
The cap rails on Antidote have to come off. I want to check underneath to see what the hull to deck joint looks like. I'm also concerned about some of the peeling varnish and cracking from the dried wood. It's been left a little too long, so I just want to make sure that there's not water getting past them. Now to start with, I'm hoping to reuse a lot of this wood, so I tried to drill a small pilot hole and then use a screw to push the bung out, and that didn't work so well. So then I tried to use a larger screw like this one and had a similar result. In the end, we're just going to go with the old method. We're going to drill a small pilot hole, and then I'm using a very, very light chisel to break into the bungs, gently clean them up, and then I can pull the screws out. This way I'll be able to reuse them if I need to. Okay, we moved on to a different cap rail location, but you get the point. What I want to show you here is that it's important to get the screw head clear of all sort of debris inside so that you can engage your Phillips bit. They're Phillips in this case. The impact gun here is great because these allow you to pull out a screw that would otherwise probably get stripped if you did it either by hand or with just a regular drill. So these are really pretty amazing. This is a yellow one and it works pretty good.
I repeated this process for the remaining 50 or so screws that held the cap rail in place. Once the stem head fitting was removed, I had a clear path to the underside of the cap rail and could start prying things off. Once again, heat is your friend here, and I warmed up the wood before trying to get the bar underneath. For this, the Glazier's bar is the perfect tool to get the job started. They're great for prying up into tight spots. I'll put a link in the description in case your toolbox needs a few of those. The first few came up without much fight, and I sort of thought I was in the clear, and you never really want to have thoughts like that when you're working on a boat project, because as soon as you do, that's when things come around to bite you. When I found a whole bunch of old 5200 while cleaning out the boat, I should have anticipated that there would be fun ahead. This will no doubt spark one of those endless debates, but for me, I stay away from that stuff whenever I can. 4200 is probably a more sensible choice for anything that you want to seal up and actually have a chance at removing in the future. Patience and heat are your best friends here, and then a close third was my 36-inch demolition pry bar.
I'm working my way down the cap rail. I've run into the Genoa Traveler car. It's an updated version with multiple pin stops between each bolt head. Also, this is installed with Allen hex bolts. This is exactly what I would want to do if I was replacing this, as I put in these nice bolts. Before I can take this piece of cap rail off here, I need to get this whole track off, so we're going to try and take care of that now.
So once again here, the 1/4-inch impact driver gets the nod for this job. Okay, now just kidding, that one didn't need it, but the rest of them will. Now these have been soaking in penetrating fluid for a day and a half now, and that's always the best practice. Go around and hit all those bolts with some penetrating fluid before you need them loose, because again, it's patience is really your friend here. I try to move around and not spend too much time on any one bolt. Stainless bolts can get a little bit hot, especially if you're spinning them really fast, and they can gall and get stuck, so you want to go nice and slow and use lots of penetrating fluid. Alright, so going over to the other side of the boat, we see one of the original T-tracks, and this one has the single pin stops, the original flathead fasteners, And this one is actually so badly corroded that there is daylight coming through on some of these spots. So these are not speed holes, these are failures, and this thing is going to have to get replaced. Now these screws have been in here for 34 years, so after a bit of preparation I tried to take as many out as I could, but unfortunately not all of them wanted to cooperate. Might need to let this one sit for a bit.
Okay, so not all the screws came up very easily. These are all flathead screws. This is the first bit that I tried to use. You can kind of see here, it's a bit twisted. Now this is not an impact bit, so am I surprised? No. User error. Next I tried to use this 5/16 bit here, and it is also pretty toast. It actually just like broke off the end of it, just split right off. So that's no good. Anyway, the point of it is these bolts can they can resist a lot of torque, so you kind of need to bring out the big guns. I've already tried using my little 20-volt impactor. This is 117 foot-pounds of torque that this can deliver. So now we've brought out the big guns, literally. This I usually use for changing lug nuts on my car. This will send out about 800 foot-pounds. We're gonna give this a try now. Stay tuned.
Here I'm removing some of the more tenacious bolts on the T-track using the air impactor and the bits I showed you previously. This is probably where most of those got bent to begin with.
Some of these screws in the T-tracks have been in for 34 years and they do not want to let go. So I've bent up a bunch of bits, you've already seen that, and now I have resorted to my largest tool in my arsenal, and now unfortunately this bit does not fit inside of the screws, so I have to use an angle grinder to open them up first. It's going to destroy the T-track. It's garbage anyways. Here we go. Guesses? So it's the old if there's a will, there's a way.
With all of the T-tracks removed, I was able to resume slowly pulling up the cap rail. And I do mean slowly. Antidote has 6 of these bronze pass-through cleats on the boat. They go right through the middle of the bulwark. And they're great for tying off the lines. I wanted to pull these off so I could take a look inside below the halted deck joint to see if these are also sealed inside or what we're dealing with. It'll also just make it a lot easier to do any glass work with these off. Now, once inside, this is what I found. I'm really not sure what this material is. It's almost like a 2-part pour-in type of material. It's super hard. It's not squishy at all. And yeah, if anyone knows out there what this might be, I'm curious. That is what's keeping any water from getting further down into the boat. So I am concerned, and I do want to make sure they're sealed up tight. With all of the cap rail off, it was time for the decks to come up. Here's one last look at the decks before we said goodbye to all this teak. And now, this seems like a good time to introduce you all to Waldo.
He was perched up on the radar arch when we first got the boat, and he's done a great job of protecting the solar panels from stray seagulls, and, you know, now in the shed, his only job is really to sit around and watch me work and stare at me with those never blinking eyes. I'd like to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, Waldo, apparently. Thanks, Waldo, for everything you do around here. But thanks for watching these videos, honestly, and if you're enjoying today's episode, I would love it if you would hit that like button for me. It apparently helps these videos get out to see more people, so I would appreciate that a lot. Thanks. You, me, staring contest, go. It is finally time to remove these teak decks. So I want to save as much of this wood as I possibly can. My wife calls me a wood hoarder, but you know, if you're watching this, I bet you probably have a pile at home too, and you understand, you know, I'm gonna use it eventually. So I have some ideas for these teak strips. If you have something creative, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Because I'm not reusing my deck, I am going to just drill out the bungs with a brad point bit. Now it's important that you want to use a brad point, because what this is going to do is it's going to engage inside the Phillips screw, and it'll actually clean out all the way around it so that there'll be no bung left, and I'll be able to remove these easily with my impactor. At least that's the plan. Using a regular drill bit will round out the inside of the screw, and you might be able to see this one has already suffered that fate. That's the plan. Let's get to it.
I used the space at the bow of the boat to test my theory that I could remove the bungs and screws cleanly and fairly easily using this method. It worked pretty well, and things went on like this for quite a while. I mean, there are just a ton of screws. Getting ready to take this first piece off. This will be the test to see if this is going to work at all, and so I'm working slow, prying up gently, just letting the glue release. I'm not trying to break the wood, and it actually worked a lot better than I expected.
So there we go, intact panels.
It's almost impossible to tell if you have water damage with the teak on. You see here it registers 15%, that's borderline. But then once I have the wood removed, it's over 25. So this is definitely waterlogged core. Oh well, what are you gonna do? We were expecting that. On with the time lapse.
And that is the last piece of teak on Antidote's deck. Very exciting. I want to throw a quick shout out to another channel that did an amazing job of removing a teak deck in a very similar fashion, and it was before this one, obviously. They needed to be a little bit more careful though, because they're hoping to possibly reuse this deck. So it's Magic Carpet Sailing. You got to check out this video. They removed this teak deck very carefully in a surprisingly low number of pieces. You kind of have to see it to believe it. I'll put a link to it over here. It might be on this side. I'm still new at this, so I don't know. And but please do come back and finish this video when you're done, okay? So the other special guests have unfortunately left for the day, but I wanted to give a big thanks to Jim and Margot Davies, who've been watching these videos, and they actually used to work for Liberty Yachts in the 80s down in Seattle. How amazing is that? So they reached out to me and just, you know, sailor community and YouTube community, and they said, hey, we've got some stuff for you. And they came by and they dropped off some of the original teak from the boat. This is incredible. So you can see here, these are 7/16 thick, so they're on the thin side. That could be probably why we're having a problem, but basically the boards have essentially worn down to the thickness of the rebate here, or the rabbet, whatever you call it. So I got some spare decking if I want to make some small repairs. They also brought by some interior teak wood. These are the strips that go on the inside for the headliners and the walls. And then there's these pieces of teak and holly for the flooring. So there's just a ton of great material here that I can work with. And it was just so cool to meet some people that really know the boat. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, you can go ahead and hit that like button. We're gonna hold that open for a couple more minutes. And if you're new to the channel, this playlist will get you all caught up and up to speed on the project. If you wanna keep more of these videos coming into your YouTube feed, then I suggest you subscribe right over here, hit that center button. And I'm just very happy for you to come by the boat shed today. Thanks for joining us. Okay, double or nothing, because this time there's no way.